And code conduct. They do not. I didn't see anything.
Welcome everybody to the inaugural Finance and Performance Committee meeting for this year. I appreciate your attendance and look forward to an efficient, effective, robust audible today during this meeting. First order of business is Karakia. Please stand for our Southern District Council Karakia. Whakatakatāu ki te uru, whakatakatāu ki te tonga. Ia maha kina ki uta, ia maha taratara ki tai. E hia ki ana te apakura, e tio, e hoka, e auhu, ti hei mauri ora. Ngami. Again, welcome everybody, and to those of you online, in particular our staff who have prepared the reports, and to everybody else that's here today, my esteemed colleagues. First of all, apologies. I only have one apology from Koromatua Sam. Any other apologies? Deborah, who may not or may be late, but at this stage is an apology. I'm happy to move those apologies if I have a seconder. Deputy Mayor Noki. Thank you. Is there any identification of extraordinary business? No. Nothing. Conflicts of interest? None whatsoever. No need to move or second that. No participation from our public forum, although those are online, welcome you today. Person's report, verbal. Ako whakaranga te maunga, o kupu kawai tawa. Kona tauri te moana. Ngaku I te mrai. Ngaku I te whare tupuna. E ngaku o ngati kura. Ngati nuru, te pakawhau, e ngā ui o ngati nui tōnui, te kato taunui, te nuru o ngati whakua, o waikato taunui, ngati mutuna o whare tauri, te nua tata katoa, o sharipi hato kuila. Ramihi ana ko papatūnuku e tū I manai ko rangi nui e tū hanai ko papatūnuku e tuko tūnei. E te whare tūnei, te mana whenua o mana nui e keki, kai tūre huriri, te mana whenua na rui, tēnā tātou katoa. E a pū o te rangatira, te take rā, rohe o te kirikiri, e kuri ngā rohe, welcome everybody. I just wanted to, I guess, verbalize in English my political. I just told you a little bit about who I am and where I'm from, and also that I look to you, my esteemed colleagues, as leaders or who within each of your wards today to collectively weave our understanding together for the purpose of the benefit of our communities and ultimately our district. Like previous Madam Chair, Nicole has mentioned, pass on my to those affected by the floods in the various regions of the North Island. Acknowledgements to those who have lost loved ones, pets and property, and stock and livelihoods. And I'm proud of our council's commitment to adopt the community of Te Rapati Gisborne and the great work that's going on to raise donations through the Mill Forum to contribute. Again, thanks to the staff, in particular Kelvin and his team for preparing reports. As we've heard, the revision process to evaluate the effectiveness and usefulness of these four committees will come in due course. It is my hope that in this format we can give careful consideration to each portfolio, to give our constituents, residents, the best value in return for their contribution. This committee is tasked with adhering to the term of reference, as we will get to in tab 9. However, I point out the purpose of the committee, which is to partner with Mana Whenua, enable monitoring and review progress and performance of council in delivering its long-term annual plan, ensure risks are effectively identified, managed, monitor financial performance, capital program, procurement, and council investments, to name a few. While this requires serious consideration, I hope that everybody feels empowered and comfortable to ask relevant questions to hold account the report in line with Part 6, Section 82 of the Gun Act. Kia taha, kia maia, kia manawanini, be strong, be brave, be steadfast, in ngā tātou katoa. So that's my verbal report. A mover and a seconder for that. Now and well, thank you. We now move on to sorry. All those that agree. I kia ora. We now move on to the manager's report, Calvin. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the manager's report is read, but it's just a summary there of the team that I've got working for me. There's a current set of vacancies which are on the process of being filled, and some of the members of the team will be speaking today to relevant papers. Just a few matters to work through on the agenda. Key matters. We've got the series of standard papers to be adopted, or code of conduct, standard terms of reference and standing orders, meeting schedule, which will follow this. Finance report, annual plan update, and a presentation for information around the fire centre being installed at Hughes Forest. Just an update on annual report process. We've discussed this at council and at Audit and Risk many times, with the pressure that New Zealand and the audit sector as a whole are under is meaning significant delays. And while largely the field work is completed on our audit, there's still bits and pieces being closed off by Audit New Zealand, and anticipate that will go to a Audit and Risk Committee meeting prior to not the next full council meeting, but the council meeting after that. We're not in this one by ourselves, and there's been correspondence around my peers recently with some councils only having auditors turning up this week to commence an audit and nearly 12 months through the year. So it is a risk, and will be even a tougher ask for them next year when they're also auditing consultation documents for long-term plan. Freewater's reform continuing to progress along despite some uncertainty around policy. The biggest piece of work coming up for us is discussions with the National Transition Unit on the debt calculation. They are taking a number as gospel on that, but they have a formula which they're putting in place to test it for reasonableness. And I anticipate that will fall within their reasonableness guidelines, but we've got a little bit of work going on around that. The actual transition itself is a large piece of work, and it's going to involve multiple areas of my team. And we met yesterday on some IT transitions, which will be challenging and significant. And during those conversations, a lot of discussion came up around various aspects of the transition. And to be fair, DIA are still pulling together some of these pieces as they go. They have draft legislation they're working to. So it is a challenge for all parties. So it's just a matter of working as best we can with them. Long-term planning seems like a long way off, but we have commenced planning for that and some of the preparatory work for that, and that will start to dribble through to the Finance and Performance Committee. This committee, as we get through growth assumptions, high-level planning assumptions, which we'll need to bring forward early to allow the work to occur. So that is the report. Happy to take questions.
There being none, councillors, you have before your recommendation that the Finance and Performance Committee receives the Group Manager's report for information. Have a mover and a seconder for that. Lydia. Sorry, and Elizabeth. Thank you. Those in favour? Sorry. Kia ora. So moved. What have we got next?
Chair, we've got the adoption of the terms of reference, standing orders, code of conduct and meeting schedule. Just to note, we've been through these numerous times, and just to refer to the matter in the standing orders that have been raised previously by Councillor Miller, that they'll be adjusted later.
With that in mind, councillors, with
I'll move 9 to 12. Will be accepted.
do I have a seconder? Thank you. Phil. We move the 9, 10, 11, 12 in block. In favour?
Aye.
Good up. So moved. Yes, carried. Right. Next on the report, we have annual plan update.
So I've got Jimmy Nicholson here to take questions on this, but I'll take the paper as read. Really, the key matter is to focus on approach towards the consultation. If there needs to be a consultation, we're just working through currently what could be the consultation items. ELT are meeting on Tuesday to discuss the budget, and then consultation matters soon after. If we don't need to go to consultation, there will still be an information process. So we will look to adopt the draft, which is not sitting in the activity list there, between the 22nd and the 28th of March. Happy to take questions. Well, Jenny will take questions.
Councillors, are there any questions on this report?
Could you advise us what the current budgeted rates increase is likely to be in draft form, and what opportunity there is to further reduce that?
We're looking at a number which will be, we're still working through the process of calculating, but it's a number that is around the 9% mark at the moment, but that is still being worked through. And then we are looking, as I said, on Tuesday with ELT to review that with what can be moved and what can be shifted around if necessary.
Yeah, kia ora. Around the annual plan part, so obviously we've got a workshop on the 22nd. I guess my question there is, how much leeway do we have for seeing ahead of time what's likely to be in there? Because that's like a week before consultation opens. And the other part is localised request, in that Rolleston Residents Association has their next meeting on the 27th of March, and it would be really good to be able to take some information, because the following meeting isn't until the 27th of April, which is obviously a bit late. And I don't know how many other township committees are in that sort of thing, but obviously when they meet once a month, it can be quite hard to get the information out there. Thank you.
Yeah, acknowledge that's an issue with township committees, but we are in a situation where releasing information ahead of an adoption of a draft becomes problematic. That it may not be released something, it may not be what is adopted as the draft. So you could wind up getting yourselves in
I meant more in, if the consultation starts on the 28th, is there likely to be paperwork available to take to a meeting on the evening of the 27th, which is a Monday?
yes.
Thank you.
You're Sophie.
I guess I was just going to pick up on that as well and say that if we're a community group, if this should be something that's really important to them, they should maybe be looking at changing their timetables or even having a special meeting. And maybe that's something that we should be communicating as a council to all the groups that we know, that this is coming up and here's the timetable, it's important, and here's the reasons why.
Thank you, Phil. Councillor Miller.
I guess being probably a longer standing councillor, I'm feeling a bit uneasy about the change in the way we're producing this annual plan. It feels, in effect, this is not a governance group driven annual plan. It feels very much an annual plan which is being presented to us as a fait accompli
as from the staff and the ELT. I don't feel that I've had a great opportunity to critique it, to ask for further refinements or the opportunity, which will occur during the hearings process, of course, to send some things back and say, well, actually, we think that should be deferred further. So I guess there's that tension there at the moment between what's being produced by the staff versus our ability as governors to critique or to ask for further direction.
The process this year is very similar to last year, and noting it's really because we're talking about potentially no consultation, which means no material move from the LTP. So really we're using that as the basis. If there was material items which were coming up which were not considered in the LTP, that would have been brought forward earlier.
I guess the challenge for me, Calvin, is what your definition of material is, and I suppose our ratepayers are saying potentially close to 10% might be material to them compared to our determination. We were going to aim for around 6%, so it's that determination of materiality, I guess.
Thank you very much, Councillor Morrell. I'm hearing a lot of sentiment from the community as well, and if we're going to push out a number, it's around the line. It's in line with LTP. That we need to be aware of that, but I still hear what you're saying, Grant, around the opportunity to contribute to that, or perhaps look at other ways that we can reduce it. And on a number of occasions, Councillor Hassan there has asked for the opportunity to look at UAGC rates and that type of thing. So I wonder if you're prepared to move a recommendation. I'm not trying to get ahead of things here, but putting it on the table is we'll look forward to that.
I want to make absolutely clear this is not a critique of staff, because they are doing the job that's in front of them, and they are faced with a 7% inflation rate, which has driven strong increases in costs throughout our organisation. I guess I'm talking about process in particular, and the opportunity to make refinements. But as a comment, I feel that as a council, there seems to be an attitude now of more largesse with spending, without the tension around it, with control around the spending. And I suppose I can name some examples, but I don't think it's appropriate right at this meeting.
Thank you very much, Councillor Calvin. Any other questions? Councillors, you have the recommendation in front of you that receive for information the annual plan for the financial year 30th of June 2024. Do I have a member and a seconder? Malcolm and Bob. Those in favour? Aye. So moved. Next on the agenda, Calvin.
Well, with the finance performance report for the period end of 31 January 2023. No, there's an error there on that first page. We'll just run through a few highlights, but I'll take it as being read. We've got our income running ahead of plan, and that's largely a result of development contributions, which are very difficult to plan for as developers move in different pace, and difficult to see, but we may actually start to see a bit of a fall off on that. And remember, development contributions are funding capital works, so they impact that surplus. Moving down the page there, LIMS numbers and compliance with those is good. And we heard this morning at the previous committee around building consent numbers. While the numbers are, and the comment there, fairly much in line year to date, they're down 4.5% on the year, but as Vanessa mentioned, that it's a temporary thing here at the moment. We're seeing that it's real-time declines are larger than that annual decline. Pleasing to see that consents process within the regulatory timeframes has increased. At the same time last year, they were at 31%, so quite a large increase, and volumes are playing into that, but it's positive. Around our facilities, including swim school, income is up. We're continuing to run near capacity with that service. Community facilities tracking well to plan. and benefiting from increased usage. But if we look later on, we discuss the percentage of the revenue covering expenditure still running behind our target, but that's being significantly impacted by our smaller facilities, which are much more harder to run at with increased revenue. Service contracts are all in line with target. Just diving a little bit deeper into some of the numbers on page 135 of the agenda. The community charges, we can see that fall off slightly there compared with budget, and that is largely driven by what we've just referred to in community facilities. Regulatory income is up, and that is just the recovery of fees where we have had external parties coming in and working on resource consents and building consents. Hence the increase down in the consulting, contracting and professional services line where predominantly that sits. We've had mentioned at the council at previous council committees around the transport OpEx trending above the plan. We've got pressure on labour, inflationary pressures and other costs that we're just seeing that sit above the plan and unlikely to be recovered, that variance. Well, it won't be recovered, the variance, and we're looking to see what we can do to ease the trajectory moving forward. Moving through to page one. Previous year's trends running below the budget line with variances across the board. That will catch up in some respects, but won't fully, and we will be faced again with carry forwards, which become a question around to Councillor Miller's earlier point around annual plans, whether we're loading ourselves up too much to deliver, therefore there's opportunity to ease the program. Into our balance sheet, page 140, not a lot to report here. It's tracking along okay. Borrowings are up 10 million compared with the start of the financial year, now sitting at 85 million. And our cash at hand dropping as we've used up some of the fixed term deposits that we had in place, which relieve the borrowings. Council's investments, again, not much to report there. It's just fairly flat year on year because of valuation positions. Performance metrics, as mentioned earlier, the only one of significant concern is the percentage of community centres and halls that generate revenue greater than or equal to 20% of operating costs. The smaller facilities are certainly having an impact on that, and we're looking at those facilities in depth and understanding if there's opportunities to improve performance. But our main facilities are doing really well. And the building control one, we know it's at red, so year to date sitting at 48, but lifting in the months. I'll leave that there, Mr. Chair, and take questions.
Well, so just picking up what I was obviously with this at the risk and audit, the investment properties list. It's obviously a much fuller list than we had last week, which is great. That's not the complete list, though, is it?
No, it's not, and I'll touch on this a little bit later when we get to the property report around what we're doing on that, but yeah, it might just sit better in that report.
Thank you, Phil. Councillor Miller.
Financing costs over budget by 1.6 million. This is in the explanatory notes that it's due to insurance. Is that just a timing issue? Is that the increase on premiums payable is blown out?
So when we approved insurance at the start of the year, they were higher than what was in the budget. And there was just premiums moving up.
So it's $1.6 million premium
There and some financing, actual financing costs
that we weren't expecting to borrow.
No, just we would manage to hedge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all hedged though, and should from now on.
We're 95% hedged within the policy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Dean, are there any more questions? There being none, we have the, sorry. Oh, sorry, Lynn.
Hi, I was just looking for the page, but I couldn't find it. You talked about having LGFA funding. I wanted to know if that came with any requirements, like if it was a green fund, where it required you to build any particular things in return for having that funding, or if it was just straight.
No, those facilities are not, but the LGFA do offer a green bond facility, as do a lot of other banks now. So to take that up or to offer a green bond has a few steps to be taken in it.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So you have the finance and performance report in front of you, councillors. You have a move and there's a second of that report. Sophie and Malcolm. I'm not saying here. All those in favour? Aye. Aye. Thank you. So moved. Major projects report.
Okay, so this report was one that used to go to the Audit and Risk Committee, now goes to this committee. Just prior to getting into any questions on it, the format of this report and the projects included will alter as we move through. That's under development. We'll be looking to have a comprehensive capital report, which will include all capital projects, but with a focus on those that are trending in a red state or a at-risk state. At this stage, we've continued to include our large-scale projects or programs which are over 5 million and anything else which is material. I think to note on there, we've in the last 3 months, we've completed 2 projects. We've got 3 now in construction phase and 4 in design phase, and each of those has a summary following, and happy to take questions.
Questions, councillors?
Development contributions, particularly around the Darfield Trunk Sewer, and Natalie, when we bring Ellesmere on, when will we review the DCs to take into account the increased capacity and requirements to keep on building that infrastructure? Because I know that the sign-on fee, we were concerned about the very low level of DC required to join the ESSS. Is that on the agenda for new work program?
The development contribution policy is reviewed as part of the LTP. What I can say is the contributions, how they're made up, as we look at the forward plan of work required to meet capacity needs. And when I'm saying capacity needs, it's growth capacity. So existing service doesn't come into that. We then look at the potential growth and effectively dividing one by the other. So a more conservative growth piece results in a higher development contribution. We adjust the development contributions, assuming there's no material change in projects which would require consultation. We adjust it each year by PPI, and PPI number, and I'll quote a range here, but it's between 10 and 12%. So that will be the lift in development contributions going forward into next financial year.
Alcohol Park, it's been another budget extension. It says around scope of roading and necessary roading adjustments. I don't recall that coming back to the governance group. Was that just a staff decision to make those changes?
Just looking at the commentary here, so I'm assuming it's stage 1B. Written commentary paper was submitted to the council, lifting that budget. And then it looks like we've got a further amount over that, and I'll just need to go back and check what was going on.
Yes, I'll continue on, because it's the same thing with the Rolleston Town Centre. And you're talking about a significant amount of scope change since tender acceptance.
Yep.
Which to me signals quite a significant blowout. Is there some commentary on that you could?
Well, I suppose the key is these are estimates, so not committed numbers. If we take Rolleston Town Centre, yes, been scope changes, but they have not been actioned or tendered or driven in any way, and that's largely due to the the covered area in the centre of the town square. And we have gone out and asked for a redesign of that to understand what the potential of it is. We've put in the higher number to be conservative to show where we're at, but that redesign will come back to the full the council for agreement before we move forward on anything like that.
Oh, so I was of the understanding we had put a holding number for that covered, included in our budget. Was that not included in our?
That was included in the budget at the time that was done, which was some years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not actually a budget blowout. It's an additional capital cost on top of the budget originally approved. For the covered item at least.
Yeah. So in terms of what the plan to deliver is unchanged. The cost to deliver that plan is significantly higher.
So, because I was going to ask about the town square. So, where are we sitting then in relation to the budget that's approved? Because it's hard to tell from what you've said where we are actually at, because we don't know how much money we've said is for that arbor structure, but we don't know the final cost. But where are we sitting on the actual budget as it's gone?
In terms of the works, which
Yep, microphones.
himself off. In terms of the works that are underway, and you look at the program as a whole, there's been some ups and downs across that program, but we're in line with what we expected for that component of the program.
Yeah.
Where we face the blowout is the arbor structure, which is significantly higher than what was originally proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions, Leah? I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to ask, obviously being a first termer, given that we're constantly facing, it's very changing world at the moment, and we are getting, budgets changing after agreed project designs. Is there an opportunity for things to come back to the table to consider that we may need to claw back some areas of some of the projects that have already been signed off on, so that we can make things fit within the budget rather than pushing the budget out to fit the initial project design?
So the delegations require that we do return if it's beyond the contingency within a small window, which there's some discretion for the CEO. So that occurs, and you've seen that with a number of these projects where the additional amount's been approved, or there'll be value engineering done to reduce the scope of the project, which also comes at a cost of what you're receiving as a community. So it's a balancing those two things out.
Kelly? Sure. Okay. Councillors, major projects report. In front of you, do I move in your seconder for that report? Malcolm? And Elizabeth? Those in favour?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you, Gavin. Our next report on the agenda is a fire sensor report.
Okay, so I'm going to get Trish to come up and talk to a bit more of the detail and ask the questions on this, because this one is beyond my expertise and knowledge. But what we've put in place is some fire sensors in McHugh's Forest as a early detection mechanism should something occur in the forest as a fire. It also allows some other things to occur. This is an invaluable resource for things for our own civil defence to enable early identification and early getting to a point where there are issues. But I'll get Trish to
While Trish is making her way to the seat up there and getting set up, I wonder if there's anybody that wants to move the report. If I have a move and second for that report. Councillor Lyle. And Mugford, thank you. Hasn't popped up there. Thank you. Kia ora, Trish, welcome. Take it away.
Your microphone, Trish.
Can everyone hear me? Okay, so this is our McHugh's Forest Park sensor installation trial that we have going. The key benefits of this technology is around public safety. There's environmental benefits, utilities information, roading and transport information that can be generated. I did want to just explain briefly what IoT is, because it's a common word that we assume people know. So it is a collective network of connected devices and the technology that facilitates communication between devices in the cloud as well as between the devices in themselves. So a physical object that connects the internet to the internet, it can be a fitness tracker, a thermostat, a lock, or an appliance, even a light bulb. So this is an example of the installation that was done at Bottle Lake Forest. There's currently 5 sensors there. CCC Smart Cities team have done this installation, and we have been working in partnership with them around how we collaborate to bring the data together for Great Christchurch. These are the McHugh's locations. There's 3 locations for our poles. We've procured 3 poles, and they are set up so that they cover, each one covers a circular area from the sensor, and they're set up so they cover McHugh's completely and as much of the houses around there as we can get. This is the signage that is being installed shortly. We're hoping to get this up before the poles go in. One of the learnings from Christchurch at Bottle Lake was that people wanted to know what was coming. So this signage is going to go in at the same time as the concrete is poured for the poles. And then I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about this. We wanted to make this a little bit more exciting than CCC Bottle Lake. We wanted to be special at Selwyn. So what we've done is arrange QR codes for some of the ferry doors. What those QR codes do is take people into the app, which is the app which holds all the data from the sensors and has a little fairy story that goes with them. The idea of this is we're actually creating engagement with our community, coming into the app and then having the data available that's from the sensors. And that lovely little man is one of my staff's grandson. So, sorry, I'll just escape from here because I would like to show you live data demos. Hopefully this works, guys. Okay, this is an example from a Rural City Council in Australia. This is one pole, and you can't see it moving on your screen, but I can. It actually shows the wind direction. It's you can go into pollution, rainfall, and gives you all that information in the vicinity of that pole. So it's one pole, and that's its sensor space that it's picking up stuff. Very technical word, sorry, stuff. This one is the Latrobe Valley. This is where the technology first came out of after the fires in Melbourne that killed so many people, were absolutely devastating. You can see here you've got multiple poles, and you can click on each pole to get the actual information about what's coming out of that specific area. And you can see there on this one, actually can see the wind moving, so it's giving you directional information. All of this information we've got that will be shared directly with FENS. So the moment that there is a change, they will be alerted to that and able to have this information to help them deal with any situations that could come up. That's my presentation. Has anyone got any questions?
Thank you very much, Trish. Councillor Reid.
Thanks, Liz. I'm quite interested in it because I've been involved with air quality before. So on that regard, like measuring PM10, PM2.5, is it used actually as an air quality sensors anywhere? Is it only used as part of being a fire detector?
At
Type
this
thing.
point, it's not used, like we could give the information to Environment Canterbury.
Yeah.
But we haven't explored that. We've focused on the fire and safety benefits. All of this will come in a dashboard specifically for Selwyn, and we can share the information to, that will be available to everyone, everyone, but we can look to share it directly to Environment Canterbury.
Because the thing that I've actually talked about this with Councillor McInnes is that the population that we have in the likes of Rolleston now, I would think that we should be getting an air quality sensor here, as in from Environment Canterbury's side. I understand there's one in Rangiora. So it would be interesting whether this is having something like this may be a different option. I don't know, and I haven't actually really spoken to Environment Canterbury if they are looking at putting something out here at all, and what sort of time frame.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Reid. Elizabeth.
I see Deborah's got a question.
Deborah's her
Choose up.
Oh, yeah, I know.
It's Trish today.
Oh, Deborah's Trish. Okay.
Deborah.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to ask if I fell off my mountain bike while I was biking in the forest, does it currently set up that it can talk to our phones and
No, it's using different technology to what you use on a phone. Was part of the reason for this pilot actually gives us some really good information about this kind of networking. We can actually use it for flood monitoring in areas that get low cell phone coverage. So that's part of the reason for the pilot as well. But no, it doesn't tie to mobile phones at all.
Thank you, Councillor Munt. Who's on there?
Well, just what sort of area will each pole look after? Is there like?
Can I tell you that off the top of my head? It's very big if it's flat. If it's less and less of it's hilly.
So the 5 at McHugh's would do that, the whole of McHugh's?
3 MQs.
3, sorry.
Yeah, and it covers all of MQs. So when it's drawn geospatially, we see the 3 poles in each corner and then the circles with every piece covered.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. Sophie.
Already to me. I guess mine's kind of a comment along the lines of Nicole's around what else could we use this for. So definitely for smoke pollution in townships would be interesting. My other thought was, I'm just wondering whether I'm presuming ECAN are aware of this sort of technology around things like the quarries, because dust monitoring, I can see it's measuring PM 2.5 and PM 10. Yeah, that would be quite interesting for their dust project to look at. So.
One of the things we hope to do with CCC using Bottle Lake and us using McHugh's, the poles aren't cheap. So we couldn't afford to do, for example, the Port Hills, but we're hoping if we can show the value between these 2 pilot sites, we can get Environment Canterbury, MB, Ministry for Environment to help support us look at perhaps putting poles in the Port Hills or wherever else is appropriate.
That'd be awesome. Cool. Thanks, Trish.
Thank you, Sophie. Lydia.
Thanks. Hey, I think this is a wonderful initiative, and it's fantastic to actually protect the people of Darfield from such an event as a fire in the forest. I've been contacted by some people in the community that have a negative view of these, and I'm just wondering if later on, it doesn't have to be here, you guys can provide me with some more information on it around cost and ongoing cost of these things. And notice that it was earmarked as the 13th of February for installation. Do we have an updated time frame of when installation will be happening?
I can give you that separately. I'm imagining our website that looks like this went live this morning. And I know they were behind on the concrete pour and the signage, so it's probably about 2 weeks away, but I can confirm that.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Poles are here in iZone waiting to go.
Thank you, Lydia. Grant.
A bit like Lydia, there's some comment about 360-degree cameras. Is it going to be operating like a security camera? That is this recorded in video format that you can refer back to?
Um,
Specifically thinking about arson, those sort of things, so you would be able to track down people on that.
that has been how it's used at Bottle Lake, where they had very high concerns about it. At this stage, we haven't used it for that. The video will be available to friends in real time, so they can see what's going on. However, we haven't.
Will it be recorded on that
It's
video?
not recording as far as I'm aware, but I can confirm.
So it just drops off straight away.
Yeah.
So limited use for that. Second question is that you talk about partnering with Spark. Is this a nominal cost to ratepayers, or is there a reasonable? What is the budget for this?
I'm just looking to Kelvin for advice about what I'm allowed to say. So
We've got we might have to bring that back separately. There's Spark have got they've given us a very, very good deal, but we need to protect that commercial sensitivity that's
Okay, it could be in BX, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Grant. Malcolm.
Yeah, Trish, the data that we're gleaning from this could be of use to multiple people. Is there do we have the ability to be able to charge for that data and recoup some of our cost?
that is something we could consider. At this stage, we're looking for public benefit of having the data out there. And there's very clever people in Selwyn who might do cool things for our communities with this data if we make it openly available. And there's something we could consider.
I'm well aware of the warm fuzzies, but I'm just looking at the hard financial lines here. So, and I see it doesn't hear anything, so it doesn't answer the philosophical question for those who study philosophy: is if a tree falls, a single tree's in the falls in the forest, do you hear it?
If you can only see it. There it is. Councillor Dean.
I just want to ask Malcolm a question. About why would we want to financially benefit from this? Well, what's your thinking?
I'm thinking that the ratepayers are paying for this. And we're looking at rate rises, we're looking at ongoing costs. We need to make sure that we can glean anything we can along the way.
Isn't it something that we would already done a feasibility study on and determined that it was something that we already had value on in terms of recuperating costs? I mean, it's a great service. I would hate to limit this view here of for our McHugh Forest to only people that were paying for it. Well, look, I guess it's a discussion.
Relevant questions from both councillors. I think perhaps something further that Kevin and his team can work on. And appreciate your report, Trish. That's Deborah, she's not, I can't even see her up there. I guess a lot of the questions that I had also have been answered around cost and cost benefit. And I think it's a wonderful initiative, again, keeping our communities safe and ahead of the curve, especially given some of the effects on fires that we've had where we took out to last week, more than that way for also transport and roads. Some of the extra benefits and whether it is useful or not, does it measure or can it measure potential earthquake, that type of thing? Is that a
This one doesn't have that, but so the dial-it looking thing at the top, you can install lots of different IoT devices within it. So we haven't put that in ours, but you could have that installed on a different IoT device.
Thank you very much, Trish. And I guess looking for the feasibility really around the particular risks to our district, and that would definitely be one of them, which may alleviate some of the concern around costs. So thank you very much. So that's the fire sensor report. Councillors,
Can I just add one thing, Shane? I think the key motivation for what we did here was around trial, but if you get onto Google Maps, take a look at McHugh's Forest now, it is bordering the township. It's dead smack up against it. If fire took off there, we would have a serious problem if winds were traveling in the wrong direction. So it's really about community safety, this one, and encouraging the likes of Fiends and others to get in there and do some of the stuff themselves to encourage it. And just on other things, it IoT will be and we are through Trish's previous connections at ECAN, encouraging them around river flow, flooding, around adoption of those sorts of things.
thank you very much, Kelvin. We have had moving to seconder for that report, Councillor Lyle and Murphy. So that report has been moved. Moving on to the next report. Thank you. So moved. Next report on the agenda is property report.
Okay, so the public property report, not a lot to report in this at the moment. We are looking to review how this is formatted and how this moves through. The question. We'll take a full top to bottom review of our land holdings and to determine the purpose of the land holding, because some of this is historic land owned for many, many years, and the purpose in some cases has changed due to growth and other things, and making sure that we're looking at that again, agreeing with yourselves that the purpose remains as it is or has changed, and then we can take a strategic approach around what we may want to do with that land moving forward for or even across here at the additional land which between us and Countdown. So the key movements on this report is really just that we are making progress on removing restrictions at Hororata to enable us to move the property on. Happy for Phil to take questions.
Councillors? Questions? Councillor Miller.
Sort of reference back to the investment income, page 135, sold 173 Blacks Road, is that just over $1 million of receipted income, which says it's investment income. Will that be put into a reinvestment fund, or is that just going general rate?
At this stage, the way it's structured, it goes back to the general rate, but it all depends whether we can ring fence those and hold them. But again, it moves general rate in a certain direction at this point in time, but it certainly will be part of our future view of investments.
I guess I repeat my challenges to the staff of numerous years that response has been, I heard that response for a number of years, and we don't seem to get any closer to that activity. We have repeated sales where it just goes to general rate and there's no reinvestment done. If that's the will of the council, that's good. But I don't think that is the will of the council, and it doesn't seem to be progressing. And I suppose that's the challenge I'm posing back to you today.
Thank you very much, Brian. Yep, and I'd like to hear that sentiment, especially coming through from not only our staff with regards to roads, but also some of our community. I think that does deserve a look at. We've heard it around the table now for the last 3.5 years. So, yeah, I think that's something that we should consider moving forward. Councillor Dean?
Yeah, just not saying what you said before, Kevin. I think it's somewhere in the reports it needs to just be reflected what the total property is. Yeah, I think all things are obviously changed in terms of what they are, but all the property has a value to it. And yeah, we, as Grant was saying, no, I'll leave it there. Thanks.
It's a substantial list, but yes, that's the plan.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I just have a couple of questions regarding the EV charging stations. Well, a great company really hard. They're over, but they're no cost to council, which is good. Just with regards to data, do we have access to the EV data and how much of an increase we're seeing in electric vehicles in the district at all? Is that compatible or useful to the use?
There is data you can get from other sources around EV purchases and things. It becomes a little bit difficult though because the purchases quite often occur in the cities. Registrations are useful on that. So Stats NZ produce those. Coincidentally, I met with and Rob met with Meridian yesterday just to get an update on progress and where they were at, and they are really pleased with what's occurring here and how it's going forward. They didn't quite have a report ready for us on usage, but they are going to be providing something. But the note is they are being well utilised.
Thank you, Kelvin. And I just had a second question before Councillor Mudd around the Hororata Community Centre. There seems to be concern question around meeting the needs of the Hororata community. Option 1 there. Go Hororata question the LTP adoption that will meet the needs of the.
That's a historic comment from some time, changes are sitting in red.
Thank you. Councillor Mark?
I have met a new EV owner in a car park who hasn't been able to operate the equipment. And as everyone knows, I'm not particularly IT savvy myself. Could I possibly make the suggestion that maybe Denise and some others could pull together an EV evening, and Meridian and whoever are some of the stakeholders in the district could come together and do a rundown on which apps and how people load up the apps on their phone and how to navigate them? Because I think there's a lot of older EV owners now, and they barely know how to turn their phones on.
I think we can provide services, which we do within the community centres, to help people with apps and other things, but to have a specific thing on EVs, look, if Meridian chose to do something like that, that'd be great, but it's not our place to do, it's their equipment. But, Denise's teams and the libraries and facilities offer that sort of service around helping out with how to use their phones and how to log into things and complete forms. So.
Thank you, Councillor Munt. Lydia, did you have a question? You backed out right the last second. Okay. That was a good question. Perhaps it is something that the owners of the facilities could put on. Thank you very much for your input. All right. You have the property report in front of you. Do I have a second? Move in a second for that report. Sophie, thank you. And okay, just about moved everything. Thank you. All those in favour, say aye. 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 Good. Thank you. We now move into the public exclude part of the agenda. Do I have a move in the second to move out of the public part of this? Dean, Councillor Dean, and Councillor Reid. Oh, there's three. Thank you. We've now moved out of the public part of this meeting ends. Thank you to those that have joined us online. Lucky dear. Oh, sorry. Are we going to have a karakia now or after?
No, yeah.
Oh, into it. Okay. Michael,
I just did it the way I did last time because the public discussion was an extra, and everyone was noticed.
Thank you very much.